when they go into their dens, they don't eat, they don't drink, they don't urinate, they don't defecate. So it's really an amazing feat of mammalian adaptation. Really, no other bear, or no, excuse me, no other animal survives winter in quite the same way. There are a lot of other mammal hibernators, but those animals wake up periodically to urinate or defecate, sometimes even eat, depending on the species. Brown bears don't do that though. They may be fairly conscious. Their body temperature only drops, a few degrees centigrade, so they don't really enter the deep state of hypothermia that a ground squirrel does, for example. But they still possess a lot of remarkable hibernative adaptations. And they'll come out of the den with being a lot skinnier because they've burned a lot of fat reserves, but their muscle mass remains largely intact. Their bone health remains largely intact. If a human were to be put in the same situation, we would not fare well. So brown bears may offer us opportunities to learn more about how they prevent diseases like disuse osteoporosis or muscle loss for somebody who suffers, a traumatic injury and who is bedridden and can't exercise. And that's sometimes one of the things that I think about when I'm watching these animals. It's just how they do survive their wintertime environment. And, scientists and biologists are gaining more and more insight on that each year. But a lot of those processes are still largely mysterious. But also, as part of this hyperphagia process, this gorging that they do at this time of the year, they also get sleepy. The transition to hibernation is not necessarily a switch. It's not like flipping a switch on and off like we do for our light bulbs. It's a long, slow transition that happens over several weeks. And bears at this time of the year are probably undergoing that process right now, where their heart rate slows down, their body temperature starts to fluctuate, starts to drop slightly. They also tend to get overheated very easily because they're carrying a lot of fat reserves at this time of the year. But when biologists have attached, heart monitors, for example, to brown bears, to wild brown bears, to try to figure out what is happening to their bodies in the time period before hibernation and during hibernation, they found that it is a long, slow process into this hibernation metabolism that they undergo. So when we see a bear in the fall that's sleeping a lot, it's not being lazy. It's maybe undergoing that transition as we watch it. So now as we take a look into the far pool here, you can see a bear moving around, trying to catch salmon. The water in the far pool right now is quite high. The water level in the river overall has gone up significantly over the last several weeks. If you were watching the bear cams in the middle of August and late August, you'd have seen much less water flowing over the falls. But it seems like September at Brooks River has been very wet. And that has increased, of course, the amount of water running through the river. It's good for the salmon. It allows them to access their spawning sites easier. It allows them to avoid the bears maybe just a little bit easier. For bears fishing at the falls, though, that extra water makes it a little bit harder for them to catch their fish. It looks like maybe we're looking at number 151 Walker in the foreground here. I can't quite see who's behind him. Walker's an adult male who is in his early teens. think he was first identified in 2008 or 2009 as a young bear at the time. I recognize him by his pointed, narrow and tapering muzzle, so it kind of comes to a point. He has fairly wide set ears, dark coat overall at this time of the year, and generally lacks, scars or wounds that we see a lot on a lot of other adult males. He's actually gotten quite fat over the last year, and he is one of those Fat Bear Week candidates. So he's grown significantly since last year. Just observing him